Welcome back. What we're going to do today is a little bit different. I want to show something that maybe I should have shown towards the beginning of this. And after the setup, when we've done our setup, the other area to look at is the feature configurator of the production. This is how you tell Promob how you build your carcasses. Where your edging is going to be, what your back panel is going to be, and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little video just to show you and explain how it works, and I think this might help people who are starting out, but also for people that have already got it up and running, and they can realize that they could set up different profiles depending on certain items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along. I'm just going to do, okay, so what I'm going to do quickly is just come up to here. This is under Tools in the header up here, and I'm going to come to here where it says Feature Configurator Production. I'm going to click on that. It's going to open up this section here. I'm going to make this nice and big, so it's going to be a lot easier for us to see. So basically what this is how we're going to tell Promob how your carcasses, how your structures are made. Right at the top, you're going to see that we have got a range of different ones that are actually in here. So depending on what you've got, I'm going to go, for instance, to the 60mm flatback. Okay, so the 60mm flatback is one that you'll be able to download on the login email that I sent you. At the bottom there'll be a download link to download this. This is sort of a basic one that I've put together to get you started. And the way you would import it, you're going to click on this little blue button over here on import, and wherever you've saved it on your desktop or wherever it's going to be, you'll be able to click, you'll be able to find it, and you'll be able to import it into the software. On that download link, there's the insert back and the flat back. So the flat back is where you're going to nail your back panel to the back of the carcass. The insert back is obviously where you're going to do slot grooves, and you're going to slot your back panel into the carcass. So for now we're going to work on the flat back. So you're going to import it like this. We're going to get down to measurements. This is just an overall size for the board, so it understands what the board is. But what we're going to do is, as you can see, there are several different folders. So we've got kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, office, and living room. Each one of these is set up so that you can actually create, for instance, maybe a different carcass for a different purpose. So your bedroom units will probably be put together differently to how your kitchen units will be. Your bathroom units would be different to your bedroom and your office and so on. So this allows you to actually use different sections depending on what you're going to be using. So when I come in here, it's going to have extension dimensions. External dimensions. This is a little bit like a lot of the kitchen design software, where you can initially set up the sizes of your carcasses. So the way that they've broken this down is very simple. A is going to be the overall size or the height of your carcass. So at the moment I've got this set at a 720 height of my carcass, because my kick plate is going to be 150. So 150 plus your 720 will give you your correct height for placing your worktop. As you go down, you'll see B, which is the depth of the carcass over here. I've got that set at 560. C is the smallest of my wall cupboards. This allows us to have 3 preset sizes. Obviously you can still change the size within the drawing, as you've seen already, but this just makes it a little bit faster. So you can set a mid cupboard, a small cupboard, or a tall cupboard, and it'll allow us to preset them over here. So I've got 350, 700, and the largest one here is at 1040 millimeters. And if we go further down, we've then got for instance F, which is wall cabinet depth. So that's this one up here. I've got mine set, as you'll see across here, at 350. I know a lot of people like to use 300. So again, you can just literally come in here, type in whatever measurement you want and say apply, and it'll save it to your profile at the top here. The main reason I'm using a 350 is I prefer a slightly deeper top cupboard. So if you've got things like dining room plates and things like that that are a little bit bigger, they can actually sit flat inside the cupboard rather than having to try and slot them in or fit them in on a 300. But again, this is all down to your custom sizes that you create. We have things like island depth, pantry heights. I've got mine set at 2.1. Pantry depth at 580, you could make that 600 for instance, and you'll see as you go down, if I scroll down a little bit more, you'll see we've got a few other things, combination oven depths, things like that. Okay, so that's your first initial sort of setup with inside Promob. We're now going to go up to the top here and we're going to go into panels, and you'll see that we, for instance, got side panels. So a side panel speaks for itself. It's the side panel of your carcass, and at the moment below here where it says material, don't worry too much about that. We're going to change that material later on when we choose the materials for the kitchen. But for now, we've just got it set as MDF. We've got 2750, which is obviously the size of the board. The length of the board we're going to be doing at 1830. And then we're going to do 16mm, which is the thickness of the board. Below that, you'll see we've got on here, this is actually just a highlight of this panel. And you'll see we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is for your edging. So the program is asking where you're going to put your edging. You're going to come down here. For instance, I've got a 1mm edge on the fourth side over here, which is going to be the panel that's going to be where the door goes against. That's going to be where my edge is. So it's all broken down. You can obviously change it to whatever you want. You can type in whatever thickness you want, and you can tell it, you know, if you want one on the top or on the back or on the side, you just place it over here. Okay. Partition panel, that's if you're going to use a partition panel in a double cupboard. I know most of the time we don't use them, but it is in there if you want to set it up. The base or bottom panel is set up exactly the same way. The only difference is that 2 is now our front edge. So on 2 I've got 1mm. Back panel, at the moment I've set these back panels up as a 3mm hardboard, as a 3mm with no edging. This is the panel that's going to be nailed to the back. Back panel of our wall units, again I've got it set as a 3mm, but you can actually change this and make it a 16mm panel if you want to use a 16mm back. Again, you would just change the material, change the thickness, and then you'd tell it if there was any edging, which there isn't, and it would then automatically update when you said apply. It'll update it to whatever you've saved this up here. Now the reason I've got multiple ones, I could have a separate profile where my back panel is going to be a 16mm, so I could actually put here back panel 16mm, and rather than going through all this and resetting once I've set one up, I can literally just come across here and I can duplicate it. So if I click duplicate, it'll come up like this. I can then change the name. So here I could, for instance, we could put there 16mm back panel, something like that, 16mm back. And if I said OK, it'll save everything as it is already. And then I could come in here and just change my back panels to all 16mm, and I know then when I choose this particular one, it'll automatically give me the differences. So I'm going to cancel that because we're not actually going to use that, and you'll see on here, if I go back to my flat back, and if I've done one where I've got a mistake, like for instance this one, I've got to change one, I can literally just come here and I can remove it. It'll ask me, do I want to remove it? Say yes, and you'll see that it's got out of your list. Okay. So as we go through, we're going to have rear panels. This is for our side corner units. We can actually build different items. A shelf, so my shelf, and I've got a edge on the front, number 2. Doors, on my doors, what I've done here is I've set it up with a 1mm edge all the way around. You could, for instance, on your door fronts, is change that to actually a 2mm edge. So if I say 2mm, come down here, 2mm, I can actually change all these to 2mm, like that, and I would then remember to say apply, and it's now changed this. So when I go back in here, this will be set as 2mm, and that's what I want for all around the edges of my doors. This comes handy when you start using Promob's cutting program, because it'll actually automatically allow for the 2mm edging, and your cut size of your door will be 2mm less, obviously, all the way around, and it allows for those 2mm. You don't have to manually calculate it, it does it all automatically for you. These are for like aluminium doors if you wanted. This is for your internal drawer fronts, so we can change those. Surfaces, frames, if we want to put frame blocks around, you could actually tell it that you want that to be 32 or whatever you want. This is just your normal panels, and then you'd have, for instance, special, if you've got anything special. Then components, we're going to go to components quickly. I just want to click on these. When I do a recording, sometimes it doesn't always show it up. Okay, so on here, this is where you've got, for instance, your top cleats, but we'll get more into more cleats later. This is your kick plates. So again, you can set up your kick plates, any molding that you're going to have, your crown moldings. You can preset all this depending on where you want your edging. Your fillers. Side overlay fillers, so everything is set up, and in fact what I'm going to do is I want that to be MDF as well, because I'm going to be able to change that when I want it changed. So I'm just going to apply it. Appliance supports, this is where you want to put extra panels in beneath your ovens and things like that. You can actually place those in there. If you're doing any honeycomb, blind corners, so you can set up this panel here that goes in next to your door. You can preset all that. So there's that panel, and then we've got spaces that you can put in, and for instance a front wine rack circular if you want to put that in. When we get to drawers, we've got our side panels. Again, you can put in your edging. So for instance here, I've got edging on 1 and 2. I like my edging on the top and the bottom so it doesn't catch anything. We've got, if you're using any metal sides, drawer faces. This is not the front of your drawer, this is your internal part of the drawer where you would screw your front on. If you're not using this, you can take this out. You don't have to use it. If you're just going to put your drawer front bang on to the two sides, this is made for if you're going to block your box in. Same as your back panel. And then your base panel, I've got them set up as 16mm. I know some people used to use 3mm, but I find 3mm sometimes falls apart or falls out with a slot groove in it. So I've set mine up as 16mm. Again, you can go in quite easily and change those. Now we're getting into the cabinet assembly. So cabinet assembly is how you put your carcasses together. So for instance, the way we're looking at this, we're looking at the cabinet from the front. So that's your top, that's the bottom, and these are your two sides. You'll see there's a B and an A here. And if you look further down, where I've got B, the panel, I've got it as 16 and I've got A as 0. Basically what I've asked this to do is to run my B panel, which is a side panel, all the way down. So if I had that 0, it would stop at the top of where this A is colored. Because I've made it 16mm, it's going to come past to the bottom of this panel. So I'm going to be screwing in or downing, or whichever way you're going to do it, from the side, not from the bottom, from the side. So that's why it's 16. If I wanted the base panel to go past the edge of the upright and have it flush with the upright on this side, I would swap this around. I'd make A 16 and B 0, and then I'd be screwing in from underneath. So I hope that makes sense. Back panels. This is going to give us where we're going to place our back panel. So on this particular one, I'm using hole. So if you come down to A down here, you'll see that I've got hole. And then underneath, it's asking me for a retreat of where my back panel is. Now, the reason I've got -3, a lot of people say to me, why don't I just put 0? If I put 0 there, what will happen is the program will measure the internal size of the space of the back of the carcass. So you'll have nowhere to nail it. You wouldn't be able to use it as a slot groove because the panel would be too small. It'd be floppy because it's just the internal size of your carcass. So with a -3, what it does is it measures the full outside positioning of the carcass, so it knows that the back panel will be the full size of the back of the carcass, so you'd be able to nail it in. When you look at the other one that we've done where we've got the insert, what I've done there is I've actually made it, instead of the full size, I've just taken 8mm off each side, so my slot groove is 8mm in depth, so that my back panel will be 8mm bigger than the opening, but not as big as the full size of the carcass. So it will have a slot area for it to slide in. So that's why we've got -3 there. I'm just going to pull these in so you can see them. And again, this is asking us for where we want our panel positions, so it's quite self-explanatory. It tells us everything there that we need to know. Okay, when we get to cleats, we can set up individual cleats for the job that we're doing. So for instance, I've got this set up as A, which is both at the top. I've got both, and then I've got them as 70mm. Now I know a lot of the guys like to use 80 or 100. I tend to just use 70 for the reason that when you're going to put a sink in, or you're going to put a hob electric stove cooktop in, usually at 70 you don't have to cut them or adjust them at all. But again, that's all down to how you put yours together, so you'd be able to adjust these sizes to whatever system that you are using. Okay, and you'll see there's multiple options depending on the way that you actually do it. Okay, this is just your laterals where you want them positioning. Back position of your cleats, if you want it going into where your slot groove is, or you need a bit of movement, you can change them. You can move them back from the back panel. You can also move them down if you want to. It allows you to set those up. It's for your front panel. Partitioning if you're going to be using it. And your shelving can be adjusted as well depending on how you want it. Okay, we're going to come down to corner units. So corner units, again, you can set it up to however you want. If you're using battens, it can be preset. If you're not, if we're using a non, it'll just put 2 side panels in at the back, like we tend to do mostly here in South Africa, but you have the option to actually use one of the other versions as well. You've also got the option of how you're going to cut your base panel and your top panel. It's going to show you how your doors are going to be positioned depending on how you do it. And this is all done inside this section here. So depending on what you choose will determine what information you're going to put into this section. Okay. 90 degree, this is just showing you your panels. This could be for your shelf or for your base panel. It's just asking you how you're going to do it. I've got mine as one singular piece for my shelf and for my base, but it allows you to actually do it in split pieces if you want to. Wall gap we don't tend to work with. Most of our walls aren't always that straight, but you can actually put in overlaps and measurements for walls if you want to. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get into blind corners or box corners. So again, everything can be manipulated. You can adjust to every single piece that you need to how you're going to build your blind corner. If I come over here and I come down, you'll see it has all the different bits of information. Okay. We have things like fillers as well. So C would be your filler to butt up to your next cabinet. You can use box type as well, single side. It allows you to set up everything that you need. Cleats, you can use either a full cleat, or if you're using an internal like this, you could have it split or partial cleat. I know we tend to mainly use the whole cleat. And again, you've got wall gaps if you wanted. We also have a drawer corner. This is like the Bloom, and it gives you the information of how to set up your drawer if you want to put a corner drawer into the system. Wall cabinets assembly is exactly what we've just been through on the base units. It's exactly the same. You can just adjust them to however you want them. So if you would, for instance, instead of using maybe using a whole panel, but instead of a 3mm, we want that as 16, you just make that 0, and it would then automatically fit the 16 panel into the back of your carcass. So we've got things like side panels, we've got all this information, exactly the same as we have on the base units. So again, even our corner units, you can adjust those as well for your wall units. And we can go down to blind corners, and it works exactly the same way. Now for pantries, we can do exactly the same thing. We can set our pantries up however you're going to want your pantries laid out. So again, it allows us to even set up top retreats and things for things like if you've got an oven unit or a fridge unit and it's all in one unit, so that you've got your airflow and everything here. You can actually preset all that as well with inside Promob. So when you go to applications, this appliance area here, we don't tend to use in South Africa that much. We tend to make our oven cabinets the size of the oven that we need to put in. So if it's a 600 or 800, we'll actually create the cupboard to that size. Overseas, what they tend to do is make the cupboard a little bit bigger, and then the front panel they will actually cut out so that when your oven is in, it has the same color around the oven units as your doors. So that is something that's already built in here. So if you want to do that, for instance, maybe you're doing a pantry type unit and you're going to put a coffee machine or something like that in, but the coffee machine is maybe slightly smaller than the oven, you can actually do cutouts and show it here onto the system. Okay, this is front doors, this is cabinets, this is your spacing, your gaps between the doors, the edge sides of your panels, gaps between your drawers and so on. So you can actually preset everything here. So for your wall cupboards, again you can preset the gap spacing that you want between your cupboards or your doors gaps, as well as the edging of your doors to your cupboards or your carcass. So for instance, if we go up to C, that's giving us a space between the wall, the door and the carcass top, And the same here, this is showing the bottom, this is showing us the gap between the doors here, gap between the door there, and B will be the gap between the edge of the door and the carcass. So pantries set up the same way. Built-in units, this is where you've got a built-in unit, it allows you to do it. Combos, you can change it there as well. Profile handles gives you some information there. Y handle. Here we've got some aluminium doors that you can preset, and different glass doors that you can preset up as well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get to drawers. So this is drawers, okay, with your side panels, okay, and this just shows you where your base panel is going to be. Okay, so with this you would be able to change heights and depths. So for instance, on your gaps for your drawers, you can actually preset. A would be the gap that you would need for your runner. So if you're putting a side runner in, like a bloom or grass or a tish or something, you would put in whatever information they've given you for the size of the runner, you would put it in here. And you can say the depth of your drawer, so you would say how much gap you need from the back panel to the back of your drawer. You can preset everything here. Now, this comes in handy. What you could do here, for instance, you could set up, for instance, let's say this is grass, and the grass runner is a 13mm gap on each side of your drawer. You could set all that up, and we could rename this, so you can come along over here and you could rename this, and you could say 60mm flat back grass drawers, okay, or side grass drawers, whatever you want. What that allows you to do is when you do your design and you've put your whole cabinet together and you go to the customer and you've done your quote and everything and you show them the quote and they go, oh, those runners are a bit expensive. What you can do inside Promob is you could come back, you open up your design, you then would change this to generic or whatever one you've got which doesn't have the measurement for the bloom or the grass, for instance. You change it to say your generic that you've created. You come down to the bottom left hand side over here and you will say apply to existing items. You tick that, you say apply, and then you just wait. It'll take around about 2 minutes, and what it does there is it automatically adjusts every drawer box and everything that's in your kitchen or within your design to that new specification. So when you do your cutting list and your quotation, it'll now have the correct size for the drawer boxes for that particular runner system, so that you don't have to go in manually and change every single cupboard. It does it automatically for you. So this is very handy for giving yourself, again up here, you can give yourself multiple, like bloom back, whatever you want, 1 degree, whatever you want to use. You can actually set up various profiles depending on your hardware, which makes it very fast and very simple to make changes within your design of drawer sizes. You don't have to sit there and manually go in and change them. So this is quite important. Okay, then we can go to internal drawers again. So again, it'll give us gap sizes. We can set these things up with our spacing. That'll be your face, that's your side panel, and then your base. So if you were doing undermounts, for instance, undermount runners, you can adjust the height and depth of your base panel to allow that amount for your undermount runners to go in. And I've done this and it works perfectly, knowing that the front of the drawer will cover where your runners are going to be. Right, the next section, we call them Cava kitchens. This is the aluminium type handle or wood handle. You can actually manually go in and change which one you want. You can put in the diameter of the bar that you're going to do, and the system here will show you if you're using it per bar or per meter or whatever you want. Okay. When we go into the side panel, okay, I'm just going to go into cabinets. This is going to show us, this is the profile of the aluminium channels. This is the profile if you're going to do it out of wood. So it gives us the information, and down here we can literally put in the information that we need. So for instance, on this one, where we've got A and we've got C, we can actually give it the correct measurement from your supplier, and it'll know exactly what depth and height it needs to do. And C is going to give us the depth out of how far it goes into the cupboard. So it gives you all that information. Wall units is usually like a finger grip, so it gives us that information as well. Pantries, you can set all those up as well, depending on how you're going to use them. And even your 90-degree corner cupboards. And here we can actually set up the door sizes for it as well, and it's going to give us all the channels. Same with the wall units, pantries, and even combinations. Now everything we've covered there is for kitchen. So what we've just done is everything we've created there, we can now go down and we can do for bedrooms, bathrooms, offices and living rooms. So you can preset every single section of your carcass structure within inside Promob. So go back up here, close kitchen down. So if for instance I go to bedrooms, I can do fixed base, auto base. It'll give us different information here that we can do. When I open that, you'll see that it gives us different bits of information for bedroom units. And again, we can go into panels and it'll give us the information that we need. Okay, you go into dresses. This is just very quickly just showing you how much detail you can go into with your laterals. It's got your corner furniture, your blind furniture. So it's got everything virtually the same. You can just preset them depending on how you're going to do your bedroom units. So I hope this video has helped. Just remember, whenever you make changes, to always say apply, and that updates whatever you've got up here. Now when you start a job, it's always good, I'm going to say okay. So whenever you start a job, it's always good, before you actually lay out your cabinets and before you put anything in, is once you've got your walls up, just go into your configurator, choose the one that you actually want to use, and then just say apply and OK. And then when you start putting in your cabinetry, everything will be linked to that configuration that you've done for every cabinet that you put in. Now that's not to say that you can't change a cabinet. So for instance, if I'm going to put in a cabinet, I know this video is going to get a little bit longer, but it's just to give you an idea. Okay, so let's say for instance I'm going to put this cabinet in, and for now I'm just going to literally put it on the floor, and you'll see that this cabinet is set up like that. Now I actually want that to be a solid top on that cabinet. How do I do that? Because I don't want to change all my other cabinets and things that I've got in here. So what I can do is, I've got this selected. I can go into my configurator. Okay, we're going to be under kitchen. Okay, for some reason my graphics card is not letting this show up in the video, so I'll just click on it so you can see everything. Now what I can do here is I can go down to let's go down here to where we've got Cleats. Okay, so cabinet assembly. Okay, if I come down to Cleats, I could change this to whole. Okay, now it's on whole top. Okay, I go here and I say apply to selected item. And now if I say OK, it'll do just that for that item. Okay. Now I've got a whole top. If I go to catalog and I bring in a different item, it'll keep it because it knows that that item has got a hard top on it. Okay. If I want this top to be back again to how it was, I can come back down here, and while it's selected, again you can go to your components. Okay, so we can go down to components, not this cleat because that's under components. You want to go down to assembly. Okay, I'm going to come down to assembly. I'm going to go to cleat, and here we're now going to change it to both. Okay, I'm going to say apply to selected, and I'm going to say OK. And now only this one is changed and not that one. So you can, it does allow you to even manipulate one particular cupboard while you're inside your design. You don't have to go out and redo all your preferences. You can do it on the fly. Okay, so I'm just going to delete that one, and I'm going to delete that. Okay, I hope this video will help, and I look forward to doing a few more for you. Thank you very much for your time.